Simon says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
I want to take some time to talk to you about start and finish dates, because these are really important in project. Now, if you take a look at the project plan title where it says Final Wedding Plan, notice underneath there it says the 9th of August to the 9th of August. And the reason why it says that is because this is when I created this plan. So that's actually a couple of weeks ago now when I first created this. And because I don't have any tasks in this plan currently, it's just giving me 9th of August to 9th of August. As we add tasks into this plan, you're going to see that this finish date is going to change. So currently, my project starts on the 9th of August and finishes on the 9th of August. Now, if we click on this, because it is a clickable link, it's going to pop open a little details pane on the right-hand side. And this is really where you can come to define the start date of your project. Now, notice here that we can change the start date. We can click on the little calendar planner icon just here and input our own start date, but we can't change the finish date. The finish date is automatically defined based on the tasks that you have in your project. So depending on what the duration is of the last task, that's going to define our finish date. And what you'll often find is that you'll input in all of your tasks. You might assign some durations to those different tasks. And you might find that once you've done that, your project ends up finishing at a later date than you first planned. For example, if I want to have this wedding in the summer, once I've input all of my tasks, I might find that the actual finish date of all of the tasks is in the winter. So I'm going to want to change the date that I'm starting this wedding plan. So the start and finish date is really important. Now, don't worry, you can change the start date once you've added in all of your tasks. You can even change the start date if you've added details into your tasks as well. And by default, when you create your first project, it's just going to give you a start date of the date when you create the file. So for me, that was the 9th of August. Now, as I said, I'm working a few weeks in the future at the moment because I created this a couple of weeks ago. So I want to define, first of all, when I want my project to start. Now, just for argument's sake, to make this nice and easy, I'm going to set this to a date in the future. So let's say I want this project to start right after New Year on the 2nd of January. So we're going to go into our calendar picker, and in this case, we're going to choose the 2nd of January 2023. If we close this pane down, now if you take a look in the top left-hand corner, you can see it says 2nd of January 2023 to the 2nd of January 2023. So these are my current start and finish dates of this project. And this is going to change automatically as I start to add in new tasks. So just bear those start and finish dates in mind as you're working through your project plan. I'm going to show you a little bit later on how you can move your entire project simply by changing that start date and how it shifts everything else along to where you want it to start or finish. But for the time being, that is it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to start adding tasks into our project plan. So now we've set our project start date to the 2nd of January 2023, it's time to start adding some tasks into our project plan. Now I'm going to show you how to add a couple of tasks. We're going to complete some of the fields, and then I'm going to leave you to add the rest of the tasks in yourself to give yourself a little bit of practice. Now, we're doing a wedding plan, but of course this could be some kind of business plan. Anything you like that is technically a project. So you don't necessarily have to do exactly the same project that I'm doing. If you have your own project that you'd like to plan out, then please feel free to add those tasks instead. However, if you would like to follow along with me, I've put into a spreadsheet the tasks that we're going to add into the project plan. And you'll find this spreadsheet in the course files folder available for you to download. So let's just have a quick look at that spreadsheet. So here is that file. It's called final_wedding_plan_tasks.xlsx. And this is a very simple spreadsheet where I've really planned out the tasks that I'm going to add into my project plan. Now, I haven't added all of the detail into this spreadsheet. I simply have the name of the task, the priority, and currently who that task is going to be assigned to. Obviously, there is a lot more information that we can add into every single task, but that's what we need in order to get these tasks into our project plan. And I would really recommend this before you start delving too far into the details and worrying about things like how long each task is going to take. I like to just get a basic structure of my tasks into the project plan first, and then I can go into the details of each of those tasks. Now you'll see here in the spreadsheet, I've kind of got a little bit of structure to the tasks that I'm going to add. You can see that some of these are indented and some of these are in bold. Now we're going to reflect this structure within the project plan, and we do that by using what we call summary tasks and subtasks. Now I'm not going to talk about those in this particular lesson, but just keep that in the back of your mind for later lessons when I show you how we can add this type of structure. For the time being, I'm simply going to start typing in the names of these tasks and adding in some of these basic details. And what I'm going to do is where we have these summary tasks in capital letters, I'm going to leave those out for the time being. So I'm going to start by adding in agree, budget and approach, and then set wedding date. So let's deal with the first one, agree, budget and approach. The priority of this is important and it's assigned to myself and Ben. So let's add that into our project plan. So where we have add new task, let's click just here. It opens up an editable field. I'm going to type in the name of the first task. Now you can see that as soon as I type that in and click away, it completes some basic default information in each of these columns. Now in this first column, the quick look column, this isn't a column that we have to input anything into. This is going to update automatically with an icon which will indicate if this task has a note, an attachment, or if it has any checklist items. Again, we'll delve into that in a little bit more detail later on, but know that this is automatically populated depending on what you've attached to this task. The next column along is the priority of this task, which by default, your tasks are going to be set to medium priority. But of course, we can click the drop down and we have some other options in here. Now, I think I had this as important in my schedule, so I'm going to choose important from here. The next column is who this task is assigned to. Now, once again, if I click this little plus to assign this task, you can see it's going to pull up a list of all of the members of my plan. Now, you may or may not have added members to your plan in the earlier lesson. If you did, then you're going to select members from your own team. You're not going to have exactly the same as what I've got here. If you're doing this completely on your own and you haven't added any members to the group, then you can simply assign all tasks to yourself for the purpose of this training course. Now, agreeing the budget and approach to this wedding is going to be the job of the bride and the groom. So lucky me, that is myself and my partner, Ben. So I'm going to assign both of us to this task. Now, the rest of these columns here, things like duration, bucket, percentage complete, team, so on and so forth. I'm not going to worry too much about these at the moment. As I said, I just like to get all of my tasks in my schedule first of all, and then I go into the details. So I'm not going to worry about duration. We're going to take a look at buckets a bit later on. Percentage complete, we're not going to worry too much about that. But what about team? So each of these tasks is going to be assigned to a particular group of people, a particular team of people. Now, I set this up, this is one of our custom fields, as a free text field, so I can type in whatever I like into here. Now, what I would actually prefer for this particular column is to have a drop-down list of the different teams that can be assigned to this task, because that helps me control what people are typing into this field. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to edit this field and I'm going to convert it to a choice. So let's click the drop-down next to team and I'm going to say I want to edit. Now, unfortunately here, there isn't an option which will allow me to easily convert this to a different field type. So I'm going to delete the field and we're going to re-add this in. So let's go back to add column. I'm going to say new field, but this time I'm going to make this a choice field. I'm still going to call my field name team, but then I can add some choices that people can select from. So maybe one of the teams is the top table. Maybe another team is the bridesmaids. Maybe another team is the groomsmen. Let's add another choice. We'll have maid of honor, and then a final one. We'll have a group of people called guests. If I want to make this a little bit more interesting, I can also color code my choices. So if I hover over where we have top table, notice I have a little color picker icon just here, and I can choose different colors for each of these choices. So let's choose some nice pastel colors. We'll just go through and add a color for each of those and click on Create. So now I have my new field over here. I actually want to move this so that it is just after percentage complete. So I can simply drag and drop. So now if I want to assign this particular task to a specific team, which is going to be the top table, I can click the drop down and there are my choices. So I've been able to easily control what is input into this field if there are lots of different people working on this project plan. Is this a mandatory task? Well, yes, it is. We need to agree the budget before we can proceed. And where is this going to take place? Well, I have 3 different locations where things are happening for this wedding. The actual wedding is going to take place in Oxford, but both myself and Ben live in London. So when we're agreeing the budget and approach, that's going to occur in London. And that's all the detail that I'm going to add for this first task. Let's refer back to our spreadsheet because the next task to add is setting the wedding date. And this is urgent. We really need to get that wedding date solidified so that we can start doing everything else. So this is an urgent task, again, that is assigned to both myself and Ben. So let's add this one in as well. We're going to click on New Task again. Set wedding date. And remember, you can also press the Tab key to move across to the next field. Now, this one is going to be urgent, so let's select that. And it's going to be assigned to myself and Ben. As I said, I'm not going to worry too much at this stage about the duration or the bucket. But I am going to assign this to a team. So again, this is the top table. Yes, this is mandatory. We definitely need to set a wedding date. And this is going to occur in London. So very simple to add in these basic tasks. So what I would then do is go through all of these tasks, the ones that aren't showing in bold or capital letters, and add all of those tasks in. Now, the reason why I'm leaving out these is because these ones here showing in bold are what we call summary tasks. And I'm going to show you how you can add those in and structure this correctly when we talk about summary and subtasks. So at this stage, it's time for you to go away and add in the rest of these tasks. As I said, this isn't an exact science. If you're assigning things just to yourself or you don't get the priority exactly the same as what I've got it here, it doesn't matter a great deal. Just as long as you know the process of adding these different things into your project plan. So once you've added in all of those tasks into your project plan, it should look something like this. And as I said, I haven't really changed a great deal of the detail on any of these tasks. I've simply assigned them a team. I've set whether it's a mandatory task, and I've also set the location. So you can see we have everything running all the way through to the last task, which is the wedding day task. Now, notice at the bottom, I have a task that's called Untitled, and that's just one that I've accidentally added by pressing return after adding the wedding day task. So if you want to delete a task that you don't need, this is a very simple case of selecting the task, and we can select any task by clicking on the task number. We can then right-click, and from the contextual menu, we have Delete Task. Or alternatively, we can click on the 3 dots, and we have Delete Tasks from there. Also note some of the other options that we have in here. So we can do things like cut, copy, and paste tasks. If I want to insert another task, I can choose to insert a task above, which is going to give me another untitled task. I can copy links to tasks, and I can also complete tasks. And something else that we're going to be taking a look at in this lesson is we can make certain tasks subtasks. Now, before we get on to that, let's just delete out these two untitled tasks at the bottom. So in order to select multiple tasks, you can select the first one, hold down Control and select the second one. And if you want to select a block, you can use the Shift key, hold that down to select a block. Now I just want to select this one, hold down Control, select the next one. I'm going to right click and I'm going to delete out these two unwanted tasks. So let's now talk about adding a bit of structure by creating summary and subtasks. Now, creating summary and subtasks really does make our project plan a lot easier to read. It might be that we want to group or break up our tasks into different phases or different sections to add a bit of structure to our project. Because currently at the moment, we simply have a big long list of tasks and we have 33 of them currently, just in a big long list with no formatting and no structure. Now let's refer back to the spreadsheet that we were looking at earlier. Now, when I asked you to add in these tasks, I told you to leave out all of the ones that we have in bold and in capital letters. And that's because we're going to add those in now. Now, you don't have to do this, but I do highly recommend it because it's going to make organizing your tasks and overall project a lot simpler. So let's start with the first one here. I just have a task at the top called Wedding Plan. Now this isn't really a task. There's no action to be carried out on it. It's just something that I like to have at the top because it's an easy way of seeing the entire duration of my project. So let me show you what I mean. Let's add this task in. So again, right at the bottom, we have Add New Task. Now remember, by default, it's going to add this in at the bottom. But I'm just going to type in capital letters, Wedding Plan, and press the Tab key. Now, I'm not going to complete any other field for this particular task. But what I am going to do is I'm going to move this task to the top of the list. Now, if you want to move tasks around, this is where we use this little icon of dots just here. Notice as I hover my mouse over it, I get a little hand icon, which means I can click, pick up the task and drag and drop it wherever I feel. So I'm going to drag it all the way to the top of this list, and I'm going to drop it right up here above task 1. And you can see the project will reorder that numbering. Now I'm going to do exactly the same for the rest of the items in bold in this list. So I'm going to add in preparation, attire, select and order wedding dress, guests, reception venue, so on and so forth. And I'm going to drag them to the relevant area in the project plan. Now I'm going to do that off camera, and I'm going to do it in exactly the same way that I added in the wedding plan. So join me back here in a couple of moments once I've done that. So now I've added in all of those summary tasks and moved them into the correct positions within the project plan. But they still don't really stand out very much, and currently these are still all individual tasks. We don't have any tasks that are subtasks of other tasks. Now, where we have wedding plan at the top, this is something I like to add in, which gives me an overview of the entire task list. So effectively, what I want to do here is I want to make wedding plan what we call a summary task, a top level task, and every other task in this project plan is going to be a subtask of that. So in order to do this, we need to select every task in this project plan apart from wedding plan and make it a subtask. So to do that, I'm going to click on task number 2 by clicking on the task number. I'm going to scroll all the way down to the last task, which is wedding day, hold down Shift and select task number 45. Then I'm going to hover my mouse over any of these tasks until I get the 3 dots. Let's click and choose Make Subtask. Now, what you might have noticed there is that these tasks have indented very slightly. And if we scroll all the way back up to the top of the project plan, you can now see that wedding plan is showing in bold with this little collapsible and expandable arrow. So this means that I can click on this arrow and it's going to collapse up my entire project plan. And the reason why I like to have this here is because when we start adding in durations for these other tasks, it's going to reflect in this top level summary task, so I can see exactly the duration of the entire project, because it will be the duration of every single task in the plan. Now let's go through and create more summary and sub tasks. Now here I have preparation, attire, and select and order wedding dress. And in my spreadsheet, I have these as effectively summary tasks of each other. So I'm going to select task number 7, hold down Control, and select task number 8. And I'm going to make those a subtask of select and order wedding dress. I'm then going to select task number 6, and I'm going to make that a subtask of attire. And you guessed it, I'm going to select task number 5, and I'm going to make that a subtask of preparation. So now I can collapse up these different sections and really hone in on exactly what I'm interested in. So we're adding structure into our project. Now don't forget that we can also change the size of these columns simply by dragging this out and in. So if you're struggling to see your task names, you might want to resize those. Let's go through, and the next summary task that we have here is guests. So I'm going to select the task below. That's these 4. This time I'm going to hold down Shift to select the block, and we're going to make those subtasks of guests. Just a note that if you want to undo what you just did, you can also promote the subtask as well. Let's select task 19 to 21 by holding down Shift. We're going to make those subtasks, and we're going to go through and do the same for each of these headings. Let's make these subtasks of catering. We then have our 2 tasks related to flowers. We're going to make those a subtask. We then have our tasks related to photography for the wedding. We have our details, the finer details of our wedding. So we want to select all of these, make them a subtask, and then the final couple of items here, the wedding venue. And then finally, we have honeymoon. Like so. So now you can see how these summary and subtasks add a bit of structure to our project plan. And if we want to hone in on specific tasks, we have the collapsible and expandable menus, which allow us to focus just on what we're interested in. Another type of task we can add into our project plan are milestone tasks. And milestones really show key points in a project. They might be there to show progress, completed deliverables, or decisions or triggers. And milestone tasks don't have any duration, so we can add as many as we need into our project. So let's add a couple in, because these are very simple and straightforward. Now notice that I've made a couple of changes to this project since the last lesson. I've added in a few more tasks, and the majority of these have predecessors and are automatically scheduled tasks. The final one at the bottom, where we finalize the course outline, you can see I have a little note in there. It's a manually scheduled task, and I don't really know the duration or the finish dates yet because I'm waiting on approval from the training manager. So I'm going to add in a milestone task for when this course outline is approved by the training manager. So I'm going to select task number 6. And another little side note here, when you're selecting tasks, click on the task number all the way over on the left-hand side. That's going to select the whole task as opposed to the individual fields if you were to click in any of these. So we're going to click on task number 6. Let's go up to the task tab, and all the way over in the insert group, we have a milestone option. So let's click to add a milestone task. Now notice that's inserted above where I was clicked, and we just have the default text of new milestone. Now notice that the duration is 0 days. As I said, milestone tasks don't have any duration, so it's always going to default to 0 days. And now we can rename this milestone. So I'm going to click in the field, and this is going to be outline approved. Now, this milestone task relies on task number 5, the task before, being completed. So let's add in a predecessor. Once again, we can click the drop down and I'm going to choose task number 5. Click on OK and now check out the timeline. Milestones are represented with this little diamond icon. So let's zoom in so you can see that a little bit clearer. If we scroll across, we have a little diamond icon there and it's showing me the date of this key milestone. And this milestone task doesn't change at all unless you manually move it. And milestone tasks don't increase the project duration in any way or reflect on the work or resource time. So now that I have that milestone, I can update the information for task number 7. So the duration is going to be 1 day, but I now know the date that this task can start. So we're going to change this to the day after the outline has been approved. So that is going to be March the 25th, but check it out. The 25th is a Saturday. So we want to set this to the next working day, which is going to be the 27th. And if we take a look at the timeline, we can see that change has now been reflected. And it's also worth noting that you can create predecessors for milestone tasks as well. So I'm going to make the milestone task a predecessor of finalized course outline. So if we click the drop down, there it is, task number 6, outline approved. Let's click, and that's now updated in the schedule. In order for a project to work and flow correctly, project tasks need to be performed in the right sequence. And when it comes to a project plan, task dependencies or links basically define the sequence of the tasks. And it's worth noting that most links have a link type of finish to start. So what exactly does that mean, this finish to start? Well, let's take a look at our current schedule. So if we scroll to, let's say, these tasks just here, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit because that is a little bit too wide. Now, if we take a look at these tasks, so task 11 down to about task 15, notice that we have little arrows linking these tasks together. So effectively, what these links denote is that task number 12 isn't going to start until task number 11 has finished. So that is what we call a finish to start link. And you'll find that the majority of links that you come across in project are going to be finish to start. One task finishes before the next task can begin. So effectively what we have here is task number 11 is a predecessor of task number 12. So how do we create links between two tasks? Well, let's scroll down a bit further in the schedule. And I'm going to say here that task number 32, assign teams to regions, can't be completed until we've assigned trainers to teams, because each trainer has a specific preference as to which region they'd like to travel to. So we need to establish that first before we assign the teams to the regions. Now, I have task number 32 highlighted, and if you take a look at the timeline view, or where we normally have our bars, I've got nothing on the screen. I'm not in the correct position in the schedule. Now, a quick way to jump to the part of the bars that relates to the task that you're currently clicked on is to simply go up to the Task tab, and all the way over in the Editing group, we have a Scroll to Task button. Now, if I click this, it's going to move me to the place in the schedule relevant to where I'm clicked in the task entry table. Now, you'll find yourself using this Scroll to Task button all the time. So while I'm here, I'm going to right-click and I'm going to add it to my Quick Access toolbar to make it super easy for me to access. So I can see here that task number 32 is a manually scheduled task, and I need to link it to task number 31. So for this, we need to select the task we want to link to first, and then the other task. So I'm going to hold down Control and select both of these. Then up on the task ribbon in the schedule group, I'm going to click this little link chain icon. And notice here that there is a keyboard shortcut to quickly link tasks of Control F2. Now, when I click this, notice what happens to the bars. It inserts a link. So now we have this little arrow that links these two tasks. But if we also check out what we have in the predecessors column in the entry table, you can see that it's automatically added that task number 31 is a predecessor of task number 32. Now, when we're working through our schedule and we're creating lots of different links and dependencies, it can sometimes be quite useful to see a little bit more information about those links. So what we can do is go up to the View ribbon, and in Split View, I'm going to select Details. And this opens up another window at the bottom called the Task Form. And what this is going to show me is additional information about whatever task I'm currently clicked on in the task entry view. So if we take this linked task, for example, if I click on task number 32, I can see some further information. I can see the name of the task, the duration, the fact that it's manually scheduled, the percentage complete. And if I take a look over on the right-hand side, I can see the task that it's linked to. So it's linked to task ID 31, assign trainers to teams, and it's telling me that the task type is FS, which basically means finish to start. Now, it's also worth noting when you're working with links that you don't necessarily just have to link each task to the previous task individually. You can do them all in one go. For example, I could select these 3 tasks just here, go up to the task ribbon and click on Create Link, and it's automatically going to create finish to start links for all of these tasks. So that can be really helpful if you have tasks in your project that can only start when the previous task finishes. Now, aside from clicking on the little chain link icon in the schedule group to link tasks together, you can also link in a couple of other ways. For example, if I wanted to link tasks 2 and 3 together, I can simply come over to the predecessors column and I can either type the task number, in this case number 2, or alternatively, if I delete that out, I can click the drop-down arrow. It's going to pull up a big long list of all of the tasks, and I can select the task that I want to link to from here. So again, that would be number 2. So 3 different methods that you can use in order to link your tasks. Now I'm going to remove that because I don't want to link those 2. Notice as I did that, as I added that link, check out the cells that are showing as being changed. The dates for all of the tasks below changed because of that link I just created. And that is why these are showing as changed cells. Now we do have other task types that we can add in. As I said, by far, finish to start is the most common. But we also have finish to finish links that we can add, where the finish of one controls the finish of another. And then we have the 2 rarest task types, start to start and start to finish. And those really aren't used very often. And I will say that something like start to start can be quite problematic. If the predecessor task starts and then is delayed, it could finish after the successor. And start to finish means that the start of one task triggers the finish of the other. As I said, both of those are extremely rare. Now, if you want to change the type of link that a task has, again, we need to make sure that we have our details pane open. And if we select, let's say this task, on the right-hand side in the task form where we can see the predecessor, we can also see the type. So this is a finish to start, but we can come in here and change this to a finish to finish. We can change it to a start to finish, or we can change it to a start to start. And this subject is definitely something I recommend reading the help files on, so you get a really good idea as to the types of scenarios, the types of tasks where you might have to use a different link type. And if we take a quick look in the help files, you can see here underneath types of tasks, we have those different link types and a full description. And in this description, it gives you different scenarios where these might come up. So I definitely recommend having a read through so that you know if and when you need to apply those to your project plan. So far in this course, we've added in quite a few different resources. And as you might expect, this resource list can get pretty long. So it's much easier for us to manage all of our resources when we can find them quickly. So what we can do when we're working in this resource sheet is we can do things like sort them by type and put them into alphabetical order. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to jump up to the View ribbon. We're going to go across to the Split View group, and I'm going to turn off the Details pane so that we have a little bit more room to work with. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort my resources by type. So we're going to find our sorting options again up on the View tab. In the data group, we have some sort options just here. Now, because I want to sort this list by type, I need to make sure that my mouse is clicked in the type column. So I don't have to click the column header or select the whole column. I can just simply click anywhere in that type column, because then when I click the sort drop down, I can choose to sort by cost, by name, or by ID. Now for my sort, I'm going to go straight down to sort by, because this will allow me to perform multiple sorts on my resource list. Now if I click the drop down just here, it gives me a number of different fields that I can sort my resource list by. I can then choose if I want to sort in ascending or descending order, and then choose the next column that I want to sort by. Now I'm going to choose to sort by type in descending order first, and then I'm going to sort by name in ascending order. And right at the bottom here, where I have permanently renumber resources, I'm going to make sure that I have that ticked. Because what that means is that when my list of resources gets sorted, those ID numbers are going to move with that resource number. So let's click on Sort. So now let's take a look at that. We sorted by the type column first of all in descending order, so effectively Z to A. So that's why we have our work resources at the top, then material, then cost. I then chose to sort by the name, so the resource name in this case, in ascending order, so A to Z. So if you take a look at this block of work resources, we should find that those are sorted A to Z in alphabetical order, and the same for the other resources that we have in here. Now, as soon as we sort these different resources, Project renumbers them. So as the resource name moves rows when we sort this data, it renumbers those particular resources. So if admin assistant was down towards the bottom, maybe in position 10, when we performed our sort, because it begins with A, it jumped to the top of the list, and Project renumbered so that this is now task number 1. Now, if you don't want to continually be renumbering your resources, make sure you go back into Sort and into Sort By, deselect Permanently Renumber Resources, and then you can simply click Cancel. Now, another thing we have to watch out for when we're working with our resources is duplicates. And duplicates are surprisingly easy to create because, let's face it, everybody makes typos every now and again. So what do I mean by this? Well, if we were to type a new resource name in an assignment, Project automatically creates a brand new resource by default. So if we don't have any kind of control over that, it means that anybody can click in one of the tasks and type in whatever they like into the resource assignment. So we want to make sure that we're putting a little stopper in there to prevent duplicates from happening. So to do this, we're going to jump up to the File tab. We're going to go down to Options right at the bottom, and we're going to jump across to Advanced. Now, if we go towards the bottom here under the section General Options for this project, notice that we have ticked Automatically Add New Resources and Tasks. So we want to take the check out of this box and click on OK. So let's take a look at that change in action so you can understand a bit more what it's stopping you from doing. So we're going to load the Gantt chart back up. So let's make sure we're on View and click the top half of the Gantt chart button. And I'm going to open up Task Details. Now let's select any of these tasks. I'll just go for task number 5. Notice in the task form view we have a resource assigned, but what I could do is click in this little space underneath, and instead of selecting a resource from the list, which is more controlled, I could effectively just start typing whatever I like into this particular box. So I'm going to type in training team lead, but I'm going to make a typo. So instead of training, I've put tranning. Let's hit enter, and you can see I'm getting this message. The resource you typed, Tranning Team Lead, is not in the resource pool. To add the resource to the resource pool, click Yes. If you don't want the resource to be added into the resource pool, then click No. So this is going to stop me in my tracks and essentially force me to check what I've typed in. So I don't want to add this. I'm going to click on No because I don't want to create a duplicate resource with one of them spelled incorrectly. So now that we've seen how to add resources into our schedule, it's time to look at the numerous different ways that we can assign resources to tasks. So let's start out by assigning resources to tasks in the Gantt chart view with the entry table. Now, currently you can see the entry table. If I grab the divider just here and drag this across a little bit, it's going to reveal another column underneath, which is the resource names column. And this is where we can see any resources that are currently assigned to our tasks, whether that be a work resource, a material resource, or a cost resource. So we can directly assign resources to specific tasks from this column. So if we take a look at task number 4 here, send outline to training team for review, that's going to be a task that is completed by the training team lead. So all we need to do is click the drop down arrow in the resource names and we can see all of our resources just here. So I can select training team lead, and if I wanted to, I can select more than one, click away, and that is one way to assign a resource to a task. Really straightforward. Now, if I take a look at the task below, update course outline, I can see that I've got this assigned to the training team lead. Now, this is actually going to be done by the IT trainer because the training team lead in the previous task has sent the outline to the training team. So let's click the drop down. I'm going to remove this resource by deselecting and select IT trainer and click away. Now, the next task, task number 6, is again going to be completed by the IT trainer. So what I can actually do is copy the resource name to the cell below. If we hover our mouse over the corner of the cell above until we get that little crosshair and then simply drag down, it's going to copy that resource assignment. So that is method number 2 for assigning resources quickly. Now the next task, approving the outline, that's going to be done by the training team lead. So let's take a look at the third method we can use for assigning resources. We can do it from the Assign Resources dialog box. So I'm going to make sure I have the task selected in the entry table. Let's jump up to the Resource tab and Assign Resources. So now we get this little Assign Resources dialog box, and notice at the top here where we have resource list options, if we click the plus, this allows us to filter any of our resources below. So I could choose to filter by all resources or specific resource categories, like maybe I just want to see all of the material resources. If I select that from the drop down, I'm just going to see those. It's worth noting that we can also filter by resources and the amount of hours that they're available to work. Now, to assign a resource, we simply need to scroll through the list. I'm going to find IT trainer, and then we just need to click on Assign. If I need to assign more people, I can simply go through, select, and click Assign again. And if I want to select multiple resources from this list, I can simply hold down Control and then click Assign. Now, another way that we can assign resources is by using the task form. So let's go to the Task tab. We're going to click the drop down underneath Gantt chart and switch across to task form. So now we can see all of the resources. We can simply click in resource name and select a resource from the drop down list. So I'm going to add the training team lead as well. And then when I click on the OK button, you can see it automatically fills in the units, which is 100%, which means 100% of the training team lead's time is going to be dedicated to this task. And then we can see some of the other costs listed out here. Now I'm going to switch back to Gantt chart view very quickly, and let's scroll down towards the bottom just here. Now I'm going to go to the venues section, and where we have book venue just here, I'm going to assign another resource. And this time it's going to be a material resource. So let's go back into task form view. I can see that I've got 2 resources assigned to this. Let's click underneath and I'm going to add the sandwiches resource. So when I book the venue, I want to make sure that we have some kind of lunch organized for the delegates. And we're going to need a few sandwiches here, so I'm going to request that we have 2 packs of sandwiches. So I'm going to type 2 into the units column, and notice what happens when I click on OK. It adds the material label, in this case 2 pallets of sandwiches, and it also updates the costs. So I can see that 2 pallets of sandwiches is going to cost $60. Now, the final way that we can add resources is via the Task tab and the Information button. So if we click on Information and go to the Resources tab, we can start adding in resources in here as well. So we just select them from the drop down and enter in the units if required. One thing that can be really useful in project is to create WBS codes. And WBS stands for Work Breakdown Structure. And what a WBS code is a unique code that helps us identify each task in our project. Now, why on earth would you need a WBS code to identify your tasks? Well, it might be that in some projects you have tasks with the same name. For example, if we look at this project on the screen, you can see task number 46 is Get Budget Approval. And this is related to approving the budget for the venues. And then a bit further down, we also have another task, task number 55, which is also Get Budget Approval, but this time it's related to travel and accommodation for the trainers. So effectively, these tasks have the same name, so adding a unique identifier is going to be helpful to us further down the track. So let's take a look at how we can create WBS codes and apply them to our schedule. Now, the first thing we want to do here is we want to add a column into our project plan to show our WBS codes. So don't make the mistake of thinking that the task ID is the unique identifier. This is effectively just the row number or the task number. So let's insert a WBS column. So I'm going to right click on task mode and we're going to go to insert column. And this is where we can choose the type of column that we're inserting. So I'm going to scroll all the way down because these are in alphabetical order and we should have one for WBS, and there it is. Now notice as soon as I add this column, it's giving me its default WBS numbering. Now we can create our own custom numbering to make this a little bit more relevant to the project that we're working on. So let's take a look at how we would do that. So to create our own WBS codes, we need to jump up to the project ribbon. And in the properties group, we have a WBS option. If we click the drop down, we can go to define code, and this is where we can create our own work breakdown structure codes. Now, the first thing we can do here is we can add in a project code prefix. So in order to uniquely identify this project, I could give it a prefix of, let's say, TRP for Training Rollout Project. And I'm going to put a dash there because I want a dash to separate that project code prefix and any numbering that I go with after this. So now in this code mask area, we can define the numbering sequence that we want to use for our unique codes. And this first one is the top level. So if we click the drop down just here, we can choose what we want it to display. So I'm going to say numbers. And you'll see as I select these, we get a code preview at the top. So if I was to click on OK just here, my tasks are going to be numbered TRP1, TRP2, TRP3, so on and so forth. In the length column, I can place a limit on the number of characters. So if I was to select 2 just here, it means the numbers are going to run from 0 to 99. And I'm going to leave my separator as a period. Now I'm going to add another level. And this time I'm going to choose lowercase letters. And once again, I'm going to select 2 characters. And again, you can see in the code preview exactly what this is going to look like. So this part of the code is going to run through from A to ZZ. Let's add another level. So I'm going to say uppercase. This time I'm going to make the length 3. Our fourth level is going to be numbers, and I'm going to set this to 2. And let's add a fifth level as well. That's also going to be numbers, and I'm going to leave that on any length. So now we've defined what our code is going to look like. We want to make sure that we keep these 2 checkboxes underneath selected, because it means it's going to generate a new unique WBS code for any new tasks that I add into the project. And it's also going to keep checking that the WBS codes that are being added are unique. So let's keep those checked, click on OK, and now you can see if we widen out this WBS column, exactly what our numbering structure looks like. So let's take a look at our summary tasks that we have here. Those have TRP01, TRP02, TRP03, so on and so forth. The next level down is 01AA, 01AB, 01AC, so on and so forth. And that pattern continues throughout our project plan. Notice as we get a bit further down in this project plan where we have more outline levels, we can see our WBS code is using more of the code that we specified. So for example, task number 31 is TRP05AA, and then we have AAA. The next one goes to AAB, AAC, so on and so forth. So WBS codes are a great way to create a custom code that helps you uniquely identify tasks in your project plan. When we're working in project, it's really important to understand the critical path. Now, the critical path is basically the longest sequence of tasks in a project. And the reason why these are so important is that any changes that are made to tasks that are part of the critical path have the ability to affect the project finish date. So they're really important. So first things first, how do we view which tasks are part of our critical path? Well, let's jump up to the Gantt chart format tab. And in the bar styles group, you can see we have a checkbox here for critical tasks. So let's select this. And what we should find is that the tasks in our project change color. Now I'm going to scroll down, and I can see if I scroll across, I now have some tasks that are showing in red. So these tasks are part of my critical path. So if any of the durations change on these, it has the ability to change that project finish date. Basically, if one of these tasks is delayed, the entire project is going to be delayed. And tasks which are on the critical path basically don't have any slack. Notice if we go up to the Gantt chart format tab in the bar styles group, we have a little slack checkbox as well. And if we hover over it, it says show a line to represent slack. Slack, also known as float, shows how much a task can slip before it affects another task or the project finish date. So tasks on the critical path don't have any slack. So if we scroll up to some of these tasks which aren't on our critical path and turn on slack, you can see that we get these longer bars running out to the right-hand side, showing the slack for these tasks, basically how much they'd have to be delayed by in order for them to affect the project finish date. Whereas tasks on the critical path don't have any slack at all, because any delay is going to affect that project finish date. Now, if we want to see this in a bit more detail, we can add a slack column into our task entry table. So I'm just going to insert a column just here so it's easy to see. Let's right click and insert column. And the column that we want to insert is total slack. Let's select it and let's take a look at what we have in here. Now notice for these tasks at the top, some of these have slack. So I can see that send outline to training manager has 5 days of slack. Now, if I scroll down this schedule towards these critical path tasks, you'll see that those tasks that are on the critical path either have a total slack of 0 days, or they might have a negative number in here, because those tasks have no slack because any change is going to delay the project. Now I'm going to go down to one of these tasks. Let's say send outline to training manager. That's currently a 1-day task. Now I'm going to increase this by quite a bit. So let's say that this is now going to be a 7-day task. Now notice immediately this planning wizard pops up, warning me of a scheduling conflict. Now I'm just going to click continue to allow the scheduling conflict. But what we'll find if we scroll across is that because of this delay, that task has now been added to the critical path. You can see that the bar has changed color, and if we look in the total slack column, we now have -1 day of slack. So if you make changes to duration, so if we start to have delays on certain tasks, those will get added to that critical path. Now, I don't want to have this 7 days. Let's take this back down to 1 day. And you can see it removes it from the critical path, and the total slack again is 5 days. And the final thing to mention here when it comes to critical tasks is that we can filter and just see those critical tasks. So if we go back to view into our filters, one of the filters that we have is critical. So let's click it, and now we can see those tasks. If I just want to see the work tasks without the summary tasks in the way, remember, Gantt chart format, we can simply deselect summary tasks, and now those are the tasks on our critical path. If I scroll across, I should find that all of those have red bars in the timeline. Now I'm going to bring all my tasks back again, so let's go back to View and choose No Filter. A really quick way to create multiple reports based off of your project for the web data is to connect to a Project BI template. And once we've connected our project to this Power BI template, all of our project information is going to be imported into the template, and we're going to have numerous different reports visualizing our project data in different ways already created for us. We won't have had to lift a finger. So this is really cool, and I'm really excited to show you how to do this because it's not particularly obvious and it is a little bit of a fiddly process. Now, the first thing we need to do here is we need to find where the Power BI templates are stored. So we're going to open up a brand new browser. So all you want to do here is type in, use Power BI Desktop to connect with your project data. Let's hit enter to run that search. And it's this link that you want here, the one that links through to the Microsoft support site. So let's click to open this link. And this is going to take us to a page that gives us a little bit of information about connecting Power BI to your project data. So it's definitely worth having a little read through this. But if we scroll down, it's going to take us to a section where it says set up your Power BI desktop. Now remember, you're going to want to make sure that you have Power BI installed on your PC or you have a subscription for it before you begin this process. Once you do have Power BI installed, this is the link that we want, Project Power BI Templates. So let's click on this to open. Now this is going to take you through to a GitHub page where we have various different things that we can download. As I said, this is a little bit of a complex process and it's not particularly obvious. Now the one that we want is fairly obvious, Project for the Web. So let's click to open this up. And we're looking for the template file. Now we have a little bit of information here about the template, but this is the one that we want, Microsoft Project for the Web, Power BI template.pbit. So let's click to open this link. And once we get to this page just here, this is where we're going to find the download link. So when we click on download, it's going to download that Project for the Web Power BI template. Now this is going to go to your downloads folder unless you've redirected your downloads to go somewhere else. Now I'm just going to click on open file. And now Power BI is going to open. So I have Power BI desktop on my PC, which is exactly what it's trying to open this template file in. Now check out what it's asking us for here. It's asking us for our Dataverse URL. If you recall a couple of lessons ago, we were speaking about the Dataverse as the place where all of our data is held. So basically it's saying here, tell me where your project data is so that I can import it into the template and create the visualizations. So how do we find out where our Dataverse URL is? Well, to grab that, we need to go back to Microsoft 365. So from the homepage, we're going to go back to our app launcher and we're going to open up Power Apps. So we want to stay on this homepage and we're going to scroll all the way down and we're looking for our project data. So right at the bottom, I have a section called Your Apps, and there is Project. So I'm going to click on Project. I'm going to verify the email address that I'm using and my password so I can sign in. You might have to authenticate yourself using the Authenticator app. But once you get through to this My Active Projects page, your Dataverse URL is what you can see up here in the URL bar. And it's this part just here. So it finishes with .com. So this is what we need. We're going to Control-C to copy it, and then we're going to go back to Power BI. So now we're back here, we can paste in our Dataverse URL. Control-V, and then click the Load button. And that is going to create a connection to our project data. And depending on how many projects you have, this can take a few minutes. But it's currently looking at all of my data, importing the different projects, the project buckets, the tasks, the teams, so on and so forth. And you can see we have loads of different things that's importing just here. So what we're essentially doing here is we're creating a connection to our project data. And this isn't a connection to any specific project that we have, it's a connection to all of our projects. Now, obviously, we don't have to analyze and create visualizations for every single project that we have. We can use various things like filters to just pull out the information that we need. But in the first instance, when you do this, your report is going to be based off of every single project that you have. So now you can see that it's starting to download the information from Project for the Web and pull it into Power BI. And the cool thing about this is because we're creating a connection, if we were then to go into Project for the Web tomorrow, create a new project, add new tasks, in order to pull all of that new information into the report, we can just come into Power BI, click the refresh button to refresh the connection. So it's really nice and simple once you've established this connection. So here comes all of my data, and check this out. Look at all the information that we have here. Notice at the bottom, we have all of these different tabs. It's created multiple different reports based off of our project data. Now, the first one here is the portfolio dashboard. So this is giving us an overview of all of our projects. And just before I did this, I actually went through and tidied up my projects. I had a lot of test projects in there, things like that. So we still have our final wedding plan and employee onboarding, but I also added a couple of other projects just based off of templates and called them Project Alpha and Project Delta marketing campaign, just so that we've got something in here to look at. So this is pretty amazing. I get an overview of all of my projects. I have 4 current projects. It's showing me the effort completed, the effort remaining. I can see a donut chart that shows me tasks that are in progress and not started. I've got a column chart that shows me the effort by project and a pie chart that shows me projects by project manager. Now that one's not particularly meaningful because I'm the only project manager. We then have a little table at the bottom which shows me basic information about my different projects. The start and finish times, the progress, the effort, the overdue tasks, so on and so forth. And I have some filters at the top, so I can click the drop down and I can filter by project progress and also by project manager, which currently I'm the only one in there. Now, of course, this is a template that we're using, but we can customize it and switch out different things. So if we wanted to change the types of charts we were using, we could do that. If we wanted to change the drop downs that we see, our filters, we can do that as well. But as a basic starting point, this is a great template to use. And if we have a brief look at some of these other pages that we have, here we can see a portfolio timeline. We can see our portfolio milestones. I don't actually have any milestones in my projects. I can see my roadmap key dates. So I added some key dates into my roadmap, which, if you recall, was called Deb's Projects. I can see those there with some visualizations. I've got my roadmap details in here, and I've got a resource dashboard so I can see all of my tasks broken down by who they're assigned to. And there's so much information that I have in here. I've got resource assignments. I can take a look at my specific timeline, so just tasks that are assigned to me. So many different visualizations that have been created all in one go without me having to lift a finger. And you might find that this is enough for you. Maybe you just want to save this off as a report and present that to your manager. And that is absolutely fine. But what I'm going to show you over the next section is how we can basically customize these reports and how we can build our own custom reports from scratch with our own cards, our own charts, our own tables. And that's going to help us understand the basics of how Power BI works as well. So the final thing left to do here is just very quickly save this report by going up to File and Save As. And I'm going to save this into the course files folder so that you can download it and take a look at it yourself if you want to. I'm just going to call this Project Overview Report. Click on Save and we are done.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.